5.1. There's a saying in fishing, never leave fish to find fish. Well, there's several small stripers and largemouth up here on this bar, but they're small. That's not what I'm after, so I'm going to not heed that advice. I'm going to leave these fish to go see if I can find some bigger. Now, I'm pretty sure that I'm starting to sound a little bit like a broken record, but that's perfectly all right too. But by that I mean, let me state again that I am a spoon plugger. And a spoon plugger is a follower of Buck Perry's teaching. Buck Perry, the father of all modern fishing, the guy who back in the 40s, in the 1940s, figured out what makes a fish tick. The guy who figured out how to catch any kind of fish anywhere in the world, any time of the year. He did that in the 1940s. And the knowledge that he had to do this, he wrote down in book. It's in a book form. What catches fish is knowledge. And Buck was put that knowledge down in book form and a little later on in a 9-volume set called Buck Perry's Complete School of Fishing. Everything that you'll ever need to know to catch any kind of fish anywhere in the world are in those or on those printed pages. But it's available, it's been available forever. Since the 70s, it's been available in books and printed form, available to anybody anywhere in the world. Yet precious few people know of it, precious few people ever follow it or implement it. But if you are a spoon plugger, if you are a follower, if you've taken advantage of this, if you've learned, if you've bought this material, and if you've learned it and you applied it, then you know that what I found here, this school of fish, there were several small fish up on this wide sweeping bar. But what that generally tells you, a couple of things, that there's been a movement of fish. There is a movement of fish, but most of the bigger fish are not up this shallow. But the decent fish are generally on structure in the immediate vicinity of where you're catching these fish in the shallows. So as a spoon plugger and under normal circumstances, if I wanted to catch the bigger ones, then I would start fishing and trolling out these deeper structures to try to locate that school of deeper fish. But on this lake, that's almost impossible, and I ain't got time to get into all that, but this lake used to be a fantastic lake for that. You could troll anywhere you want, and it was clean water, but there was a problem with the dam, and so the lake was held at real low, record low levels for 7 years. And an enormous number of trees and brush have grown up all over the place. So to effectively troll, precision troll, in most of this lake right now is virtually an impossibility. You're hung up, you're into brush and trees most all the time. But right now, by trolling a 500 and a 400 series spoon plug, I'm trolling very shallow, and you can be above and miss most of that brush. So I am by choice limiting my fishing to the very extreme shallow water. So even though I am the purpose in these videos is to try to get you as an individual to go to buckspoonplugs.com. If you go to buckspoonplugs.com, then you can learn, you can buy this printed material, and you can learn how to catch, like I said, any kind of fish anywhere in the world, any time of the year. Also, you're extremely fortunate in that Buck's #1 instructor, a man named Don Dixon, put on YouTube Buck Perry's Complete School Fishing. And I've said it over and over and over again. You can sit on your couch drinking a beer and learn how to catch fish these days. I mean, because Don put it up on YouTube. You can go and learn Buck Perry School of Fishing, which will teach you how to be a consistent fisherman. Now, I don't know, I don't believe I've ever met a fisherman who was totally satisfied with the catches that he makes. Maybe you are. But most people that I've met would like to catch more fish, and they'd like to catch bigger fish. They'd love to do that, but you don't. I don't believe I've ever met a single fisherman, really and truly, that was willing to put out the effort that it takes. What catches fish is knowledge. Knowledge that you can get from Don Dixon Fishing on YouTube, or you can go to bucksbaits.com and buy Buck's book, Knowledge is the Key to Fishing Success, or Buck's School of Fishing. You can buy that. You can learn that. Anybody can. But in the 50 years that I've been practicing and preaching this stuff, I've had many opportunities to meet a lot of fishermen at the ramp and at the dock, and we start talking about what kind of luck you've had that day, and I catch fish. I catch fish on a consistent basis, and not other than anything. The only thing that I do is I follow what Buck said. I'm just doing what a man figured this out years ago, and he's willing to share that knowledge. So I was willing to learn that. And all I'm doing is what the man said, and that will take you to the fish. You will catch fish like you've never thought about catching, simply by following simple rules. You would think every fisherman in the world would be doing that now, but nobody does. Virtually nobody does. So I'd say with a conservative estimate, I've probably had over the last 50 years at least 200 fishermen that were so impressed by your catches and what was going on that they actually bought Buck's book. I'd never met a single one of them yet that bought the full course, but the School of Fishing. I haven't met a single one done that yet, but at least 200 of them bought the book. You know, of those 200 people that bought the book, do you know how many of them studied it, learned what was in it, went to the water and applied it, and became a good, consistent fisherman? One. In all my years of trying to get people, to steer people in the right direction where they can learn how to make consistent catches, consistent good catches, and consistently catch bigger fish. In all my years of trying to point people that way, only one person that I know of ever did that. And he was a guy that I met up on the river when I was doing a little fly fishing. He was starting to try to do a little fly fishing. That was his only real experience at fishing. He was not a fisherman. So when I got him and I invited him to go with me, go spoon plug it with me, go out in the lake, He said, well, some things you know, and I know I'll never own a boat. He was wrong there. I took him out. We went spoon plugging. He started catching fish like he could not believe. He bought the book. He studied it. He applied it. He bought himself a boat. He became a good fisherman. And he loved to go to different lakes he had never seen before in his life. He would go to those lakes, make good catches, and blow the local fishermen out of the water. That's what he loved to do. But in 50 years of fishing, only one person ever applied himself, put out the effort it took to learn how to be a successful fisherman. So and the main thing that I'm doing right now in these videos is just trying to impress upon you that you can catch fish on a consistent basis. Now, knowledge is what catches fish. Knowledge. Buck Perry, or Don Dixon by teaching Buck Perry, will impart to you the knowledge that it'll take for you to become the consistently successful fisherman on a year-round basis. Well, I don't have the desire, or anything else to try to sit down here and go step by step through this. I'm fishing and enjoying myself, and I'm trying to do enough video to encourage you to go out and learn on your own how you can become a good fisherman. But I'm just trying to encourage people through these videos. That's all I'm doing. And I'm pointing you to the guy who gives it to you in detail, exactly how you can become a good, consistent fisherman. And that's Don Dixon on YouTube and Buck's printed material from buckspoonplugs.com. Now, if you learn that, if you go to and apply any of this, you begin to learn some of this stuff. If you're a knowledgeable fisherman, a spoon plugger. A spoon plugger is Buck's term for the person who basically follows his techniques or his teachings. But Buck's definition of a spoon plugger is a person who fishes in an orderly, systematic manner of fishing in order to eliminate the unproductive water in order to arrive at the fish in the shortest possible period of time. Now, Buck will state plainly that 98% of the water never has a fish in it. So if 98% of the water never has a fish in it, and you go out there, there's a lot of water out there. Even on this lake, which is a relatively small lake, there's thousands of acres of water out here. So you want to eliminate that unproductive water, and 98% of it's unproductive. So you want to learn how to arrive at the 2% of the water that contains the fish most of the time. And if you will learn Buck's techniques, if you will become a spoon plugger, a knowledgeable fisherman of how fish react to weather and water conditions on a yearly and a daily basis, if you'll learn that, if you will observe what's here today, this is after frontal conditions. You got crystal clear blue skies, high puffball clouds, beautiful day to fish in the eyes of most fishermen, but that's the worst kind of fishing day you could possibly have. This is an after frontal day. It's what Buck refers to as an after frontal day. This is tough fishing. And if you don't know spoon plugging, if you don't know what to do on a day like this, you've really got the odds stacked against you. What I am looking for today, I'm looking at the weather and water conditions. I know that most likely there's not going to be a major movement of fish. The home of the fish is deep water. When they're out there in that deep water, they're pretty much shut mouth. They're at home. They're in their bedroom. They're asleep. And this kind of conditions is when they take their naps. They take long naps under these bright conditions. But a few fish and the fish are not biting. Fishermen go out here today and they'll be all over the lake and they're casting and casting, and they come in, well, boy, they're just not biting today, are they? Well, you couldn't. No, I guess you could say they weren't biting because they weren't there. You basically were fishing where there were no fish, so of course they weren't biting. If they don't know your lure's there, never see it, you're never even, your lure's never even close to a fish, of course they're not biting. But if you know what the conditions are, you know what they are, then you know the best course of action that you can employ to try to make a catch that day. And unfortunately, on a lot of lakes, and I would say most of the Florida lakes, the dishpan type lakes and things like that, but an enormous number of lakes, due to the conditions, your best fishing will often come from fishing for stragglers. Now, what you as a spoon plugger want to really do is to locate the schools of bigger fish and just anchor up. The ideal spoon plugging situation is you troll the shallows till you find the productive structures. Then you fish those productive structures until you make contact with the school of fish that have moved up out of deeper water and moved up out of their sanctuary. They moved up on structure, and you're looking for that school of fish. Then when you locate that school of fish by trolling generally, then you pull you up and you get your boat in a perfect anchoring position where you can cast out beyond that school of fish. Let your lure sink down to the bottom, then you crank it back up along the bottom through the school of fish, and you make a catch by catching one good fish after another on consecutive casts. That's your goal, and that's what you will do so many times. But there are times when the fish are not going to move. You know that you're not likely to contact the school of nice fish, even in those intermediate and deeper waters. But due to the circumstances, you'll find yourself straggler fishing. It's just, I can't get into all of that right now. You can learn that by, like I said, by going to Don Dixon or going to Buck Spoon Plugs and go to the printed material. You can learn this for yourself. But there are times when you look around at the conditions and you know your best chance of doing making any kind of catch today is going to be straggler fishing. That means you're going to apply the shallower waters. You're going to just move around fishing the shallower water, looking for that fish that's active. Remember, those fish that's out there in deep water, they're asleep. They're asleep. They're out there in their sanctuary. They've retreated from these cold front conditions, and they're taking refuge in deep water, and they're inactive. They're dormant. But the fish that are up in the shallow water are active, so they're catchable. But they are few and far between. You're going to have to cover water. You're going to have to cover a lot of water. And casting under these circumstances are going to limit you to a very little bit of water that you can cover. Your best chance is to precision troll the shallows. That's going to be your best chance, period. Now, it's not a matter whether you like to troll or you don't like to troll. That has nothing to do with it. If you're going to be consistently successful, then you're going to have to troll whether you like it or not. Now, why people... we won't get into all this, why trolling is not practiced by more people than what it is, but it's a money situation. It's if you're big money is what fishing is. Fishing is big money today, and these companies have to sell products. These companies that sponsor the pros and put on all these shows and the tournaments and everything, they have to sell products. They have to sell their product in order to make a living. So their object is to sell you products. These pros the pro tournaments and all these shows on TV, the purpose is to sell you a product, not teach you how to catch fish. So if they really were going to try to teach you how to catch fish, then why would they not feature trolling? Because trolling is the most effective way that you can possibly use to find the fish in the shortest possible period of time, simply because you can cover more water. But trolling, it takes time to practice. It takes time to perfect. Now you can go out here in your backyard and you can learn to cast, become a good caster, never set foot on the water. You can become a precision caster in your backyard. You cannot become a precision troller except on the water. Now, I'm not talking about throwing a lure out behind any kind of a boat and dragging it around. That's just dragging a lure around, hoping to run across a fish somewhere. I'm talking about precision trolling. And that cannot be done with any boat that has remote steering. If your boat has remote steering, you simply cannot precision troll. And by precision troll, I mean your lure. If you're running a lure that runs 3 foot deep, then you want to keep it in 3 foot of water behind it's 30, 40, 50 yards behind your boat, and you want to keep that lure that's running 3 feet deep in 3 feet of water. You're wanting it to follow the contours. And you can only do that by being able to feel what that plug is doing. So you got to have the correct outfit from your rod, your line, your plugs, everything. And you're holding onto that rod most of the time in your right hand. And that rod, whatever you feel in your right hand, tells your left hand what to do with the boat to keep that lure in perfect position that's 30, 40 yards behind your boat. That takes on the water practice, takes a whole lot more skill than casting does. But for some reason, people think that trolling is some kind of a lazy man's way, and it's not. It's the one that takes the most work and the most skill, period. So if you really want to become a consistent fisherman, you've got to learn to troll. And if you're not willing to learn to troll, then your success is going to be much, much diminished. Because simply put, there are more bad fishing days than there are good fishing days. I think anybody will agree with that. If you go to the water and you find the fish are biting like crazy, that's unusual. That don't happen very often. And most of the time you go down, they're not biting. They're not up. The mass of the fish are not up in a reachable area. And reachable means to most fishermen very shallow water. Because most fishermen spend most of their time fishing shallow water, much less than 10 feet deep. Most of the time are not in that water less than 10 feet deep. They're just not there. And yet most of the fishermen spend their time in that depth of water. And not only that, not only are they fishing shallow water, of which generally don't have any fish, they're fishing the wrong shallow water. They're fishing the wrong section of shoreline. They're fishing the wrong area of the lake, the wrong end of the lake. And if they are in the right end of the lake, the right section of the lake, they're fishing the wrong section of the shoreline. It's a rare thing for me to go out on the lake and find a fisherman in a good position. Pretty much when I go to the lakes, I find that I have the good waters, the good fishing pretty much to myself. Because most of the fishermen you see are not in a good position. They're on the wrong banks, fishing in the wrong area. It's pitiful. It really truly is that with the knowledge that's out there and it's available, why more people don't avail themselves of it is amazing. But that's basically because they're victims of an advertising campaign. And that's all professional fishing is. It's advertising campaign. They have brainwashed the fishermen into thinking they got to have a big, fancy, expensive bass boat. All this fabulous equipment and all that stuff just to try to catch a fish that has a brain the size of a pea. It's not true. You don't have to have all that stuff. As a matter of fact, if you will break down and study Buck's material, you'll find that one of the biggest handicaps you've ever had in your life is a big fancy boat. Any boat with remote steering is a handicap. It's going to keep you from becoming a successful fisherman. I know most fishermen hate to hear that, but the simple fact of the matter is that your choice of boats will limit how good a fisherman you'll ever become. That's just not me speaking. That's the word straight out of Buck Perry's mouth. Buck stated that the day you purchase a bass boat or any boat with remote steering is the day you put a limit on how good a fisherman you'll ever be, because you simply cannot effectively precision troll with any boat that has remote steering. So if you're married to your boat, now believe me, I like the bass boats. When they come on, I've had the bass boats. I had to have me a bass boat. And I thought Buck has to be wrong about that, because boy, I wanted one of them bass boats, and I had more than one of them. And my fish catch went to the basement. Finally, I came to my senses and admitted that Buck was right about that too. He'd been right about everything and not known a single solitary thing he'd been wrong about. And when he said that a boat with remote steering will limit how good a fisherman you can become, he was right. So I had to come to my senses, go back to a boat like the one you see right here, something that you can control on a dime. And my fish catch went right back to where it was before I went to the big remote steering situation. So anyway, knowledge will tell you, knowledge that you can gain, knowledge that's available to you free of charge at Don Dixon Fishing on YouTube. Won't cost you a dime. You can learn how to become a consistently successful fisherman. It's free, but it takes effort. You have to apply yourself. If you're not willing to apply yourself to learn it, then you're just going to be stuck with the same success that you've got right now. If you're satisfied with your level of success, that's all well and good. I am one of those individuals that no matter how much I learn and no matter how much success I have, I'm always wanting to learn more. I'm always wanting to learn more. I'm always wanting to learn how to be more successful. Now, Buck says that there will never be an expert in fishing, including himself. Because an expert is somebody that knows all there is to know about fishing. And Buck Perry, the greatest fisherman that ever lived, was quick to tell you he was not an expert. Because every time he went on the water, he learned something. And that's my goal. And it should be your goal if you want to consistently catch more and bigger fish. To learn. It's learning, it's knowledge. So the more knowledge you accumulate, the knowledge of your lake, the knowledge of the makeup of your lake, the knowledge of how fish react or interact with the features of your lake and how they react to weather and water conditions. That's the key to fishing. Knowing where he is. Only two things you have to know to consistently catch fish. How to locate him and then how to catch him. And that knowledge, and knowledge is what it is available to you. So for heaven's sake, if you really want to become a better fisherman, every time you go, be a better fisherman than you were on the last trip. If you want to do that, there's only one way to do it, and that's by increasing your knowledge. Not your tackle box size, not buying more equipment, not buying a bigger boat, not buying better rods, better reels, more lures. That's not what's going to make you a better and more consistent fisherman. The only thing that's going to make you a better and more consistent fisherman is knowledge. It's as simple as that. Knowledge catches fish. Knowledge can be learned. It can be learned by anybody, and it's free. And if you don't acquire that knowledge, then your fishing is going to be pretty much what it is today. 10 years from now, it's going to be the same. That's just the way it is. But if you'll learn the knowledge of how fish react and what they're doing, then you'll learn what to do on any given day to make a catch. When you could go out on the lake on a day like this was a terrible fishing day, yet I was able to make a pretty good catch. And at the same time, I never saw another fisherman catch a fish, never talked to another fisherman that caught a fish. Well, once again, I encourage you, acquire the knowledge and then apply the knowledge and become a consistently successful fisherman. Good luck with your endeavors at it, and we'll talk soon.